That's it. Thank you, and thank you to our students.
Thank you, Dan. It was a good job. It's always a fun event, and we wish ourselves luck this year, too, and all the success we've enjoyed in the past. I'd like to now go back to oral communications. Ms. Tublis, could you then call up the next speaker for me, please?
Okay, our next speaker is Don Haney, followed by Howard Littman.
I'm still scared to get up. Mayor and council members, first of all, thank you for the honor for my children. And I'll try to keep this real brief. I'm a very simple person. We lead a very simple life, and I've heard a lot of things here on both sides tonight, and I just wanted to say basically three things. One, we need to remember why we're all here. I look up at that logo, and I think about it all the time. It's got a leaf, and it's got nice mountains on it. I came out here because I wanted to enjoy a nice semi-rural life. I wanted to get away from the industrial commerce complex. I wanted to get away from congestion and smog and traffic, factories, businesses. I came out here because I wanted to live in a quiet neighborhood and raise my children in it. I don't want to be holden or behooved to any interest whatsoever except our own. And that kind of reminds me of why we elected all of you. We elected you to protect and preserve and enhance our interests and our way of life, and to listen to our will, and to carry it out, and to be our voice. We expect you to approve projects that we approve of. We expect you to look into things that we want. I don't really so much want to take sides here tonight as I want to keep everybody on the same path. When we have closed-door meetings, it leads to the type of mistrust that the people are experiencing. A year ago when I came to this meeting, we were asking people, what are your thoughts, what are your feelings? And we were told we don't have any thoughts or feelings yet. And it's probably true. And a year later, there are thoughts and feelings on both sides, and there's public referendums and there are votes going around. I think the needs of the many need to outweigh the needs of the few. No matter what the facts are, no matter what the needs are, it all needs to be brought out in the public. It all needs to be brought out in the open. And I'm willing to, and I think a lot of people here, I hope are too, objectively listen to it. Closed-door meetings don't help us. I don't want to behoove that point, but I think it's important. I'm reminded of Shakespeare, me think thus dost protest too much sometimes. If things are as innocent as they seem to be, then we shouldn't need to protest as much as we do. Why are we even negotiating for a development? If we want to preserve and enhance and protect our way of life, which is what we want and what you're elected to do, tax us for it. Ask us what money you need. Why are we building anything here except more homes? I'm sorry, I apologize. If you want more money from me, 28725 Timber Lane, the Haney household, we'll be happy to pay more taxes. I want to see more parks. I want to see more open spaces. I want to see green places for him to grow up in and play at. I don't want to see any more business of any type. And if you do have something you want to build here, come ask me. My number is 818-735. I'll give you the rest.
Thank you.
Call us if you want anything built. And find out what we feel about it. Why not put an agenda out to all the people on the next vote and say, what are you interested in?
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Haney. There was an individual that wanted Mr. Ball to take her time. If that is so, I'd like very much if you could just let Ms. Tublis know who you are, and if Mr. Ball also wants to come back and take your 3 minutes, you understand, though, you are forfeiting your ability to come back again. Okay, great.
And your name is? Okay.
Well, but if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Barlow, I mean, we're talking her 3 minutes. I mean, if somebody else wants to give you another 3 minutes, it's fine with me. What is your name, sir? Ms. Tublis?
I don't know. I'd have to ask. Yes, sir?
There's another gentleman that said, Mr. Ball indicated to me he would need 6 minutes. There's another gentleman. This gentleman said he would give up his time, and that's, okay. We'll go from there.
Okay.
Mr. Ball, now where were you?
Okay. Your name is?
Okay.
Is this it?
Carol, can you start the clock now, please?
Is the mic on?
Hello?
Yes, you're on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
As my time was spent, I was talking about meetings with various landowners where we were extending the escrows. And during those meetings, they were promised that there would not be a price reduction. When I left the meeting, I told the developer, you and I both know that's not true, and I don't want to be part of any more of these meetings with landowners where we tell them one thing, and then down the road, and this is a quote, we're going to have to give them a serious haircut if this project is to work. I have repeatedly been told that the reasons for the above comments was to induce Home Depot to take over the project, reimburse the developer approximately $1 million of money spent to date, and the developer then walks away. And the Home Depot would then act as the developer. I'm currently being threatened with litigation, arrest, and/or a restraining order if I continue telling the truth or talking to the press. This is my last page. Most importantly, I support this project. I support Home Depot. Even with the problems noted above, I would even support Mr. Selleck as the developer, provided the truth was paramount over any other object or goal of the city, the developer, or Home Depot. I further believe that this council can and has always tried to do the right thing in protecting the residents. For this council to continue that tradition, I would suggest that a bond protecting the city and the residents be put up by the developer or Home Depot that would assure the completion of the other 2 lanes of Agoura Road so that the 4 lanes are built out and that the animal shelter is relocated. If for some reason Phase 2 does not occur, and I can tell you Phase 2 is seriously out of whack, even more so than Phase 1. I respectfully, again, apologize to the council, the residents, Home Depot, for the deceptions I have known about for some time. I support inducements to develop the blighted land, even if it means raising revenue from other sources. But I believe all of the above should be done in the light of day, with the full knowledge of the council and the residents as to the cost, the time, and the impacts to the city. I was induced to work on this project for $5,000 a month and a 10% partnership share that I was told was going to be worth $1 million. As I said at the beginning, I asked to be terminated on this project about 8 months ago. I gave a quitclaim deed to the developer a month and a half ago for $0. That's all I have to say. I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Mr. Gorduri.
Yeah,
Mr. Ball.
Mr. Ball, I really appreciate you coming forward to give us your opinion on these matters. I guess the thing that resonates with me is, why did you not come forward sooner? It's been 8 months, you said, since this information's been known to you.
Maybe because I was a coward. Maybe because I was a coward.
Thank you.
I have a question too.
Mr. Ball? Would you answer another question another councilman would like to address?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Ball. You made a lot of comments about problems with the developer's actions in this regard, that you had a list of them. Nowhere in there did you make any statements that the council was aware of any of these secret negotiations, that the council knew of any secret documents, the council knew of a $15 million memo, which this newspaper article, which you're obviously familiar with, implies. You're not, I want to make sure it's clear, I don't know what you're apologizing for exactly.
I'm
you suggesting
apologizing
this-
that I did not come before this
Okay,
council.
But I just want to make clear, you know that well, I mean, you're not suggesting in any way that the council was aware of the things that you knew, Are you?
I don't know what council was aware of or not aware of. I'd like to just reiterate the statement I read earlier. I further believe that this council can and always has tried to do the right thing in protecting the residents.
Okay.
And that's my position, and
You understand my question? The article
understand your
assumes
question.
something else.
I don't think that I'm here to detail out any given meeting or anything like that. I mean, I was involved in meetings, and obviously, Mr. Steele is absolutely correct. There's pre-application processes where you're allowed to talk to different people, and there's other processes. But I think there are some deceptions that I came here to apologize for, and to apologize to this council. I am not accusing this council of anything, and I thought I made that clear.
Okay.
But if I didn't, I'll say it again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. Any questions directed to Mr. Ball? Ms. Tublis, do we have another speaker, please?
Our next speaker is Howard Littman, followed by Dan Crisafulli.
Good evening. I had a number of prepared comments, which I'm going to forego because I seem to always have the microphone shut off on me. I love those drawings that we saw. You'll notice that for the birthday, I didn't see pictures of any retail stores on there. I think, once again, people have lost what this Measure H is all about. This is not about Home Depot. It's not about a specific project or any specific people. There is a major issue as to what the residents of this city believe is an appropriate threshold for, and the type of retail development that they believe will be an enhancement to this city and will help us preserve the semi-rural character of this area that we move to. The city council, there are questions people have asked me and I don't have a good answer for. Why does this city council so adamantly claim that developments with stores of with stores of only up to 60,000 square feet are not appropriate for this town? The very developments that the city council points to as economically successful and having appropriate character, such as the Promenade, do not have stores larger than 60,000 square feet. Why has the city council threatened to raise taxes if Measure H passes? There has been no empirical study of tax revenue impacts that I am aware of or that has been mentioned at this city council. There has been no reduction or will be no reduction in the total number of square feet that can be built if Measure H passes, and there is no proof that there would be any reduction in the net revenue the city will receive if Measure H passes. Why hasn't the city council and staff made public any discussion or even consideration of the types of subsidies and other support that big box developers demand, either initially or over time, of cities? As an example, Costco, which has been in the Antelope Valley for a while, just extorted a city in that area to give up a city park as a new building site for Costco. Otherwise, they would pull their store and their revenue away now that the city is dependent on it. The city council and the city staff should do everything possible to provide a full and honest disclosure, not just of business issues before this council, but to bring all of the larger issues to the table and talk about it in a frank way. I think for the city council members to get on board with advertising for the developer of a Home Depot project who's protecting his own interests is inappropriate and not the right thing for an elected official to do. They are taking a position, whether you call it a position or not. We have huge emotional and economic investments in the character of this town. Experience nationwide demonstrates that large category killer retailers have permanent negative, devastating impacts on existing businesses, the environment, and the spirit of small towns, and seldom provide any of the benefits that they tout when they're seeking approval.
Mr. Lippman, as you said, your time was up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lippman. Thank you.
Okay. There has been a request by a member of the audience that the speakers please give their name and address when they start to speak. Mr. Crisafulli, and following Mr. Crisafulli will be Michael Gallup.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, members of council, my name In the last election, of which I was a candidate, for those of you that showed up to vote, not enough, obviously, or I'd be up there, not down here. But the topic of Home Depot seemed to be the main topic in that entire open forum. In that forum, I tried to bring forth the facts as I knew them, that this city has been encouraging a development of a Home Depot in the city limits for quite some time, that the Home Depot has been negotiating with the city, that they have submitted plans, they had them reviewed, and they've been redrafted on a number of occasions, that this city helped the developer by also arranging for a company to do an environmental impact report. The whole point is that negotiations have been going on in some way, shape, or form for a long time. Mr. Sullick even had an exclusive development agreement, and everybody knows and has always known that his main tenant is Home Depot. Now, Mr. Corridori in that open forum said that I was veracity challenged. Well, it's pretty obvious now that the only people that are veracity challenged are members of this council, not me. The whole point is if we listen to what Mr. Steele had to say tonight, Mr. Steele said that there was a draft agreement, that it had been presented to this city in a few different forms, which means negotiations have been going on. And I stand by what I said before and what I've always said. If Home Depot and the developer were not getting encouragement from this council or from members of staff, they would not have been going on this long. They've been doing this for 2 or 3 years and continuing to redraft, replan, and try to get this project in the city. We don't want it. I encourage a yes on Measure H with a 60,000 square foot limitation on building in the city, and I hope that this city will recognize that and all the voters will show up at the polls and make sure that we have this particular limitation on the books in this city. Thank you very much.
Following Mr. Gallup, we'll have Barbara Murphy.
My name is Michael Gallup. I live at 6028 Rustling Oaks Drive, Agoura Hills. I moved here about 3 years ago with my family. I have a 7-year-old boy and a 4-year-old boy. Our boys are involved in the community. They play sports. We moved here specifically because we wanted a really nice place to raise our family. We were living in Northern California near a Home Depot. The schools were not good up there. There were a lot of problems. And we looked all over the state of California for about 2 years before deciding on Agoura Hills as the place we wanted to raise our kids. To me, what I love about the city is the fact that it's so beautiful and it is semi-rural. I have no problem with development going on to bring stores in or retail establishments that will enhance the community, but I just don't see how a Home Depot fits that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm very concerned about the fact that we have come to you to express our concerns. We've come to you to ask you to meet with us and hear our concerns, and it's been on a deaf ear. I do not feel that you are really responding to what we're saying. I wish I can say otherwise, but I don't have the confidence that you would be representing our best interest in whatever negotiations or arrangements that you would make. I am concerned about the fact that a Los Angeles Superior Court judge says that Mr. Steele's argument is an intentional misleading statement to the city residents. And it just makes me wonder what's happening here. That's really basically all I have to say. My concern is that what's happening here is going to affect the young families that are here for decades. And it's just really important that we all remember why we're here in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallup.
Following Barbara Murphy will be Renad Mihailovich.
Barbara Murphy, 28621 Caneo View Drive. And I trust if Mr. Selig's letter got more than 3 minutes, she'll extend us the same courtesy. It's been a while since I've been here. Back in 1994 through 97, you might remember when I opposed the utility tax that you put in without voter consent. I founded Citizens Against New Local Taxes, and I put considerable time and money to get that tax on the ballot. I co-wrote the ballot argument against the tax, and our city's voters ultimately defeated it. And I haven't been back here much since. I've never been in these chambers because tax was my issue. I was and still am a concerned taxpayer. And I'm here to voice my support for Measure H. And for the record, this is my first recollection of opposing a development in our city, so it's not a pattern. I understand as a concerned taxpayer we need retail development to provide sales tax revenue to support city operations, but I don't believe the big box is the answer. I don't believe it's the only answer, and I don't believe it's the best answer. And this isn't a black and white issue. It's not an all or nothing, as you and some of your supporters would paint it. It's not a big box or nothing or a utility tax to wit. There are other kinds of retail development we could get that are more appropriate. If you had been more friendly to your existing businesses and potential businesses and not created a questionable reputation for the business community, maybe we would have had something similar to the quality developments that Westlake Village has in its promenade and Calabasas in its commons, and we wouldn't be talking about a big box. And I don't know how much truth there is in the LA Times, but I hope if you guys got your hands caught in the cookie jar that somebody prosecutes you. And for who's telling the truth, all I can remember reading recently is your city attorney, and I don't know if that was Mr. Steele, but your city attorney, who is paid by our tax dollars and works under your direction, who wrote an allegedly impartial ballot analysis that the courts ruled wasn't impartial and struck part of the text. How in God's name can we trust you? It's a travesty that your residents and your businesses, it seems a pattern, always have to sue you to protect their rights and get out the truth. We can't trust you. We can get sales tax revenue from smaller and more appropriate retail development. And I agree with the previous speaker that I don't have confidence in you, and I don't think you can be trusted to look out for our interests and keep big boxes out of here. A big box isn't the only answer. A big box isn't the best answer. I'll vote yes on H, and I hope everybody else in the city will too, because I don't believe we can trust you. Thank you.
You're next.
Ms. Tublis, is there another speaker?
Yes, the gentleman, are you speaking, Mr. Mihailovich? You're next. And followed by Madeline Kripon.
Nenad Mihailovich is my name, and I want to compliment you on what you've done with the library and with what we've built here. I'm very pleased with it. I moved to Agoura almost 30 years ago, and I moved because I was interested in quality of life, and the valley was just too much for me and for my family. And I haven't been disappointed because the quality is still here. Now, will Home Depot change it? Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Because it isn't just Home Depot. It's going to be others like it. And what we're going to have is just like the valley itself here. And the reason will always be the same, tax base. There's always that need for more taxes and so forth. But the thing we've done here in our growth, it's been measured, and it's been done well. And that's why I'm pleased with it. And for those who want more, hey, no problem. You can go that direction, and you can go that direction, and you can find it.
Ms. Tubeless, next speaker.
Sorry. Madeline Crippon, followed by Cecilia Bebek.
Thank you.
No, my sister wants me to go first. My name is Cecilia Bebeck, and I live in Westlake Village, 30804 Calise Court.
No, you're not.
Was a volunteer. I'm a volunteer who went out and got many, many signatures. I found people, wonderful people that I met. They were very good to us. They insisted that we come in and have something to drink, and I would say that 80% of them are not for Home Depot. We were very, we didn't, as I heard before, we didn't force anybody to sign, believe me. And they were very happy. They knew me instantly. We were not paid. We were volunteers. And they thanked us over and over. They even chased us down the street.
They did. They were very good to us, inviting us in to give us drinks. And as Mr. Reinhardt said, as though we were big bullies, we were not. They were nice to us. We were nice to them. And 80% of them wanted what we wanted. And they all signed. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. All right, Ms. Tubeless.
Antoinette Crippon Giglio, followed by Ralph Giglio.
My name is Antoinette Crippon-Giglio, and I'm one of the 5 co-authors of Measure H. I'm also one of the 5 who were named in a lawsuit filed by our own councilman, Mr. Kupenberg. From the moment I heard about a proposed Home Depot on Agoura Road, I felt that it was an inappropriate location for such a development, and I vowed to work against it. Last December, I was quite surprised when I received a phone call from an attorney named Mr. Nevers, who told me that he represented and was paid personally by Mr. Kupenberg, that I was being advised that I needed to show up downtown in court within 2 days with legal representation. I was stunned. Remember, I'm just a local resident, a resident who doesn't feel that a Home Depot is a good choice for this location. I support building a town center, a place where stores and establishments are more in standing with our community. Now, however, I was facing a lawsuit by my councilman. To make a long story short, in a hearing in January, the judge threw out Mr. Kupenberg's arguments, and his petition was denied because
You're using up these ladies' time by doing this, so go ahead, ma'am.
you will not silence me.
No, I'm not asking to silence you.
His petition was denied because he failed to show that there was anything false, misleading, or inconsistent in Measure H. In light of the information that there have been negotiations going on between our council and the developer of this project, this action appears to be even a more desperate attack. Measure H includes a passage that says that building a big box on Agoura Road would require bulldozing 45 trees. One of the statements in his petition reads, there is no evidence to support the statements regarding bulldozing oak trees. It's been revealed, again, that there are draft agreements that include information in regards to bulldozing trees. In fact, a number greater than 100 trees. I ask you, Mr. Kupenberg, why didn't you confer with the other council members, or Mr. Weber, the mayor, who sits as one of the 2-member committee in regards to this project, before you decided to sue 5 of your constituents? Why has there been silence from this group of elected officials? Why have you all refused any debate or discussion on this issue? Mr. Weber, you're quoted in the LA Times story of 2/9 to say, "I don't think we're in the position."
I'm sorry, ma'am. Your time is up, ma'am. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Come on. Thank you, ma'am. But that. Thank you.
Following Ralph Giglio will be Gian Giglio.
Ralph Giglio from 29623 Quail Run Drive. I am one of the few, or maybe many, who are against the building of the Home Depot on Agoura Road. There's been a lot of talk that the Citizens for Responsible Growth is just a sham for local businesses. This is not true. No one could have paid me enough for all the hours that I've donated along with the other volunteers. I've personally been contacted a number of times on the telephone by paid workers from out of state who were paid to read off a prepared speech against Measure H. Upon questioning, they shared with me that they knew nothing about what they were reading. One young man actually apologized to me for the call when he heard the facts. Yet Home Depot, the developer, and our city council, the mayor, have their names appear on a brochure that accuses CRG of not really being a grassroots movement. No one had to pay me to make my calls to vote yes on Measure H. Tonight, I address each and every one of the council members and the mayor. You have promised that not a penny of public dollars would be spent on the proposed Home Depot development, yet by your endorsement, I think you have put the taxpayers of Agoura Hills at risk. This project has been presented to the citizens as a savior, which will bring sales tax revenues to our city, but in fact, I believe it will cost us millions. If you are successful in bringing off this stunt, you will usher in the destruction of the 4 top businesses in our city. These are the businesses that we've counted on for revenue since the inception of the city. You seek to replace it with a giant store that will require millions in subsidies. You seek to replace the steadfast tax base of our current local businesses with a pipe dream from a developer that I don't believe we can trust. Also, in your haste, you may be ready to seize Mel Adams' property, a man that has been in our city for 35 years, and you want to turn this property over to a developer that you're enamored with, a developer who will not and cannot guarantee that he will even do the road improvements that it seems like you are so desperately wanting. The reason Measure H got even this far is because I believe you have left us no recourse. My family, my friends, neighbors, and other fellow citizens didn't want to have to take this matter into their hands. Development, planning, that's your job, but I believe you failed the citizens of the city, and we are left with no choice but to put it to a referendum. Regarding the wisdom of having a big box store in our town, I'd say you would not discuss it with us, you would not debate it with us, you didn't even attend the 2 town hall meetings that we created for citizens to air opinions. I believe that Measure H is a reflection of your failure, but it will be our measure of success. Thank you.
Following Mr. Giglio will be Melvin Adams.
Hi, my name is Gian Giglio. I'm a junior at Agoura High School. I speak for myself and my family. We have been joined by 3 local businesses in protest of Home Depot coming into the center of our town. When I first heard that a Home Depot might be built on one of my favorite small roads in Agoura, I thought to myself, that didn't seem like a very good idea. I was against it from the start for a number of reasons. I love the fact that every inch of Agoura isn't built up like the valley. Isn't that why most of us moved out here? The roads are not adequate to handle all of the traffic that it would bring in. It is such a beautiful stretch of land that sits on the foot of Ladyface Mountain. I think that it deserves something more interesting to be built there rather than a big stretch of parking lot and a huge hardware store. Besides, we already have a hardware store right down the street. It seems to me that we should turn the whole area into a town center where families and people can come and enjoy themselves while spending money. Because I felt so strongly about this, I went door to door and made phone calls asking people to support Measure H. Many people were supportive. From those who weren't, I heard over and over that they supported it mainly because they had been told that the city was in need of money and that Home Depot would bring in lots of it. I really was disappointed when I found out that our city council members and mayor have been in negotiations with the developer for over 2 years. The facts of this project have been kept from us in all prior discussions and brochures. You have kept silent, but you have endorsed a no on Measure H. We got a misleading brochure at our house that opposed Measure H. It had a list of opponents, which include all the Agoura City Council members and the mayor, as well as the developer and his wife. There are approximately 112 other names of the supporters, but when I started really looking to see if I recognized any of the people, I found some interesting things. First, that there were many duplicate names or names with the last few letters left out. In total, there are 46 duplicate or altered names out of only 112. Also, some of the names on this list don't even live in our town. Were you so desperate that you couldn't come up with legitimate names? This all makes me feel pretty mad and ripped off.
Mr. Adams will be followed by Tom Bancroft.
My name is Melvin Adams. I live at 5509 John Dodson. I've been a member of this community since 1966. But next month, it will be the 36th year that I have been here. I want to tell you one of my first projects when I came. Agoura High School had no lawn, no athletic field to play on. That was one of my very first donations to this city, was to put in an athletic field at Agoura High School. Absolutely free of charge. That was the type of work I used to do before I came to Agoura. I want to thank Mr. Steele for telling me what I think the City Council should have done 4 years ago. He made it known tonight that they would relocate me. Our friend Mr. Selleck and your developer has told me, point blank, we will take you. Very words. I have on my desk a piece of paper that thick that has been made up by Selleck's attorney for eminent domain to take my property. I have it on my desk. Now, I think the proper way for you to do would be to sit down and consider talking to somebody that's been in this town and given to the community like I have. I had 2 city council come to my office. I appreciated it very much. The others don't have time. That's okay. But I think you're the losers, because when you get Home Depot and you run me out of town, ask them to borrow the generator to take to the Shumash Park for your 4th of July picnic and whenever else you want to do it. You probably don't even know that we do it, but that's okay. I do it for the community. I love the community, I live here, and I give. And I just hope that Home Depot does not come into this town. We don't need the traffic. You've no way for it to get on the freeway and off of the freeway. If it gets to Canaan Road, it don't have anywhere to go. You can't widen Canaan Road.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Thank you.
Mr. Bancroft will be followed by Jesse Semple.
In Agoura Hills, and I have been here for 24 years, which is less than the last gentleman that was here, who I take my hat off to because he has been a remarkable person in this town, and he has really been a very big contributor to us. And I thank everything that he does. I believe that this is Measure H, and I'm not sure that too many people have read this from what I've heard. A lot of people seem to think that they're going to vote on Home Depot or that they're going to vote on future development. And actually, what's happening here is Measure H asks us to vote away our right to vote. It's that simple. They applauded the speaker here that said that if you wanted to know what he thinks, give him a call. Well, if Measure H passes, nobody's going to call him because he has nothing to say because there's nobody to call him. Mr. Ball asked for the truth. Okay? The judge that everybody keeps quoting about the one item that the other side happened to win fails to mention that 11 of the 12 items that was brought before him went to the city. It was 1 out of 12 that they win on. I think that when you read part of this measure where it says things like, I don't know why, I hear people saying that the city hasn't done a good job. I was here to vote on the city, and I have been a part of it ever since, and actually my daughter says, you're in favor of development? Because it's never been that way. I've usually been a fighter of development. But when I was chairman of the Old Agoura Overlays Committee back in 84, 85, to make our general plan, that area out there was designed for a large development. That's what we had in our mind at the time. It wasn't zoned exactly that way because at that time we didn't think this far ahead. I've got to admit that. But the city has done a great job for the residents, and anybody looking around the city can see that. So I don't know why we would want to take the power away from the city, who's done such a good job in helping us. I also want to say that this measure can be amended or repealed only by the vote of the voters in the city of Agoura Hills at a city election. That's the first opportunity they have to vote against any projects of the future, and also to restore their own vote. And I would like to say one thing.
Thank you, Mr. Bancroft. Mr. Bancroft, your time is up. Thank you, Mr. Pine. Mr. Bancroft, come on. That's enough. Thank you. Appreciate it. Ms. Tublis?
Jesse Semple, followed by Paul, is it Coban? Cobal, okay.
Place. It's on now, I believe.
Well, I'm glad the city told the truth on 11 things. For you convenience shoppers, which would you rather have, a Home Depot next door or high home equity? Make no mistake, they're mutually exclusive. According to Worth magazine, Agoura Hills is the 191st richest community in America with a median home price of $368,000. But Agoura Hills is only 6.8 square miles. It just doesn't have the land mass for large-scale development, especially in the center of town which is where the developers want to put Home Depot. No small city or town on the Worth magazine list of 250 richest communities has a Home Depot. In fact, a sure way to fall off the list to watch property values tumble like the NASDAQ is to invite a big box into town. Unlike the NASDAQ, however, property values, once eroded, never go back up again. Visit one of the Home Depot towns, then be glad you can still get back to the future. Mr. Reinhardt, you came to my house last October to secure my vote in the city council election. I asked you for your position on Home Depot. We danced around a little. And you said it might never come to a vote in council. Well, where do you stand? Where do you stand? I asked. I can't say. Gag order, old boy. Where do you stand now, 3 months after the election? I'll tell you. You stand with those who frustrate and deceive the citizens of Agoura, with those who hide the facts. Check out the LA Times. You stand with those who hide behind legal chicanery, double talk, and dirty tricks. And by the way, didn't representatives or people known to the city council pull up long lawn signs during the city council race? Just come to my house and try to pull up my vote yes on Measure 8 sign. Finally, I'd like to ask, why has the Home Depot PAC taken such pleasure in persecuting our colleagues here, Mel Adams and the other businessmen who have lived and built this community for over 30 years? They spend a meager $100,000 to defend their livelihood, and you'd think they'd sunk the Titanic. That's about $90,000 less than your PAC has spent, and that's only the money we know about. Thousands more have been spent on influence peddling over the last 3 years. Is Mel Adams such a threat to you that you would destroy his business and at the same time...
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Colban is our final speaker this evening. Cobalt.
I'm chairman of the Planning and Zoning Committee of the Old Agoura Homeowners Association. I'll make it very clear, I am not speaking on their behalf tonight. These views are solely mine. I'm here tonight simply because I'm just fed up with this insane hoopla surrounding Prop H. It seems that my email, the acorn, the streets, and especially these council chambers are rife with controversy over pathetic non-issue. What especially is painful to me is that in the town I consider my home and I care about, that all this energy and discontent that is consuming us is wreaking havoc between neighbors, friends, and residents of the finest small community in Southern California. I'll start my comments tonight because I'm not terribly politically correct by criticizing City Hall a little bit. Shame on you for the way you've handled this issue. Whether it be the Times, the Star, the Acorn, or in the streets of our city, you consistently look like, whether true or not, that you do run this city in the back room or with some slick political and legal maneuvers to accomplish your wants and needs, regardless of your constituents' desires. I know this isn't true, though, because I come down here and I find out the truth, unlike these people sitting behind me in the lynch mob. If I may be so bold, why don't you in your next budget hire somebody to handle your press relations so you don't have to constantly deal with reacting to slick political hacks? This brings me to my next point. Mr. Al Abrams, the avowed voice of so-called citizens' rights, is just another hired gun serving the almighty dollar, which is precisely what you folks out there in the lynch mob accuse City Hall of doing. He's just another political thug from outside of our community spending lots of money to tell us residents what is good for us. I, for one, and you also, should be more than a little suspicious of outside well-funded political hack groups like CRG and Citizens for Competent Leadership that distort, mislead, and manipulate you for their own personal gain. This brings me to my final criticism, and that is each and every one of you out there in this lynch mob. Where the heck were you at all those planning commission meetings? And where were you at the city council meetings when the fate of yours and my future is being discussed? Every project built in this community impacts us, not just one. I come down here regularly with my colleagues, my mentors, and believe you me, I don't remember seeing 95% of your faces here. How many of you even know that we have a general plan, let alone what it says? How many of you actually know that if you really want to stop Home Depot, then you have the tools to do so? It's called the public hearing and the general plan. Do the homework. Stop listening to rhetoric. For all of you here tonight that think you're here about Home Depot, I feel sorry for you. This prop only strips you of your right to have what you want here and protects businesses that, although I like and patronize, don't own exclusive rights to my city or yours. They actually compete with each other, for goodness sake. I'll close with a couple of simple admonishments, and they're as follows. To you proponents of this prop, stop following political Pied Pipers and get the facts so you can make up your own mind, not have it made up for you. Remember, your city council is made up of volunteers.
Thank you, Mr. Koba. Ms. Tublis, are there any other speakers to speak on anything else tonight?
That concludes our speakers in the oral communications.
Thank you, Ms. Tublis. I will entertain any comments that the council would care to make at this point. Mr. Cooperberg.
Thank you. It's a lot to comment on. I find it very perplexing that if people receive an email, they assume it's true. If people read something in the paper, they assume it's true. Frankly, I was mortified when I read that article because it was the first I'd heard of probably 80% of what was in that article on Monday. I have, despite Mr. Abrams' constant personal attacks on me in his emails, despite the comments tonight about how we are, liars and we're backroom, everything else, I probably share the views. I think I agree with everything Mr. Gallup said. I think I agree with everything Mr. Mihaljevic said. I have major problems with Home Depot. I have concerns about it. I've expressed those concerns publicly. I've expressed those concerns privately. Yet because I don't support a measure which I believe is poorly written, is a bad law, which, to use the expression, throws the baby out with the bathwater, I, along with many others, are attacked. I find it somewhat perplexing that one side or the other just chooses to use the half-truths. Everyone attacks Home Depot, and possibly rightfully so, for their tactics here. Yet I don't find a whole lot of difference between Home Depot on one side, the Do-It-Center roadside lumber and equipment rental on the other side. Both are trying to tell the residents what they should believe. Both are businesses looking out for their interests. I listened to all of you. I attended the meeting at Agoura High School, which started off as a public discussion and ended up being something a little bit different, I think. And it's perplexing that people would assume that I, along with anybody else, have already voted on these things, have already made decisions on these things. Do I want a Home Depot in Agoura Hills? Generally, no. Do I like big boxes? Generally, no. Am I willing to give the benefit of the doubt to someone to make a presentation and try to convince me? Absolutely. Am I going to listen to them? I will listen to them. If they convince me at a public hearing at the right time, they may get my vote. Right now, I'd be surprised, but they're going to have an uphill battle. But they're entitled to that hearing in front of me. Measure H doesn't give anybody a hearing. Big boxes, and my big complaint is not with the citizens who signed the petition or the citizens who are in favor of Measure H, because I think your intentions are wonderful, the idea of getting involved in the community and deciding what you want. If you really wanted If you really wanted big boxes out, you would have had the lawyers draft an anti-big box measure. Big boxes aren't 60,000 square feet, people.
Please,
You know,
please, allow, please.
I probably would have endorsed a measure that was anything that would be a big box. The Targets, the Walmarts, the Home Depots, the Lowe's, all those centers are 100,000, 110, 140, 160, 200,000. They're not 60,000. They're not 65,000. They're not 70,000. But the people, the businesses that have spent $90,000 to put this on the ballot chose to put, to me, a very restrictive measure on the ballot. Most slow growth person on the council, probably. But as one of the speakers says, you still have to have some reasonable growth. Maybe some people disagree. Some people think you should have no growth. I know Mr. Crisafulli, before he was a candidate for office, he sat here during the utility tax debates and says, we need more retail, bring in big stores. He says something different now. And many people have asked and said, many people now are saying, well, we'll pay more taxes. But you have people just the other side, as Ms. Murphy testified, that say, we don't want any more taxes. You can survive without it. Speakers that have stood in front of us and said, Measure H has nothing to do with Home Depot. But I look at the sign, and on the sign that says Measure H, it says Stop Home Depot. And so you really can't have it both ways. My problem, among my problems with some of the discussion here is not giving any benefit of the doubt to people when they give you an honest statement. If you read an email, you assume it's true. If I sit there and tell you I have never seen an agreement, I've never been privy to this secret draft agreement, many of you just won't believe me. If you, I'm sure that you all heard Mr. Ball give some very, very interesting testimony, most of which was news to me and probably to my colleagues and probably to all of you. Mr. Ball has major problems with the developer. But Mr. Ball did not say that the council was there with Mr. Selleck or himself when they're negotiating with Mr. Adams or anybody else. When someone's talking with Mr. Adams, I'm not in that room talking eminent domain. And Mr. Selleck doesn't speak for me. When the measure was going to be placed on the ballot, CRG and myself both found that there were problems in the ballot arguments. CRG went to court. They tried to change some of the language in one of the ballot arguments, and I went to court to try and change the arguments. And the judge basically said, and I did have a problem with a statement that said there is a project with 45 oak trees, because there is not a project that's come before City Hall. We all know that there's been one contemplated, but there's no EIR yet out. I have yet to see it. I don't know if it says 45 trees. It could say 100 trees. But to say, in fact, that it says something, it didn't. The judge did not find that either side had made misleading or false statements. They said, you know what, it's a campaign. You guys sort it out in the campaign. I would urge all of you to consider the effects if Measure H passes. Yes, there'll be no big box. Yes, there'll be no Home Depot. But I think there's a concern that there would be a severe limitation on reasonable development in the city, as compared to if Measure H is defeated, all that happens is Home Depot gets his day in court. Home Depot comes down before the Planning Commission, and you all have a chance to give your opinion of the problems. And we know there are problems. Traffic, trees, impacts, mountains, environment, height. I mean, I could go on and on. My point is that Measure H isn't necessarily the answer to the problem. It's the answer if you own one of the three businesses, but it's not the answer for the residents who want to have a nice city that continues to grow, to afford improvements on the Keenan interchange, to improve a structure like this building and to approve the other quality development that this council has. This council has approved good development. This council has turned down bad development. And I trust the council will continue to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Gubarek. Mr. Reinhardt.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the speakers who've taken the time to come down and share your thoughts tonight. And I mean that sincerely. We don't have to agree on everything. Okay? That's what part of this whole function is about, is to come in and share your thoughts. All I ask at any time is that we do it in a way that's respectful and honest and forthright. Okay? And what are we arguing about, really? We're arguing about what the vision might be for a better city. Now, it was mentioned by some of the speakers. One of the reasons that we're even having a conversation that pertains to a potential development in this city is this. Several years ago, and this is predating my even getting on the council, the area along Agoura Road was earmarked as a redevelopment zone. The reason it was earmarked as such was that it has problems. We know it has problems. Some of us were elected up here on the notion of cleaning up the freeway corridor blight. And as much as Mr. Adams has done for this community, his lot is an eyesore. I like Mel. I like what he's done for the community. But quite frankly, I have strong objections to the appearance of a junkyard from the freeway and to billboards that occupy his property. Folks,
Please.
A little respect, please, okay?
Please.
I listened to
Allow-
you, and, you know, I don't find billboards attractive, and a lot of the voters don't find billboards attractive, and it's one of the reasons that many of us sit up here, okay? That aside, all right, the city council earmarked that area as a redevelopment zone. Now, over the period of time, there have been over 5 developers who have proposed at one time or another various iterations of projects for those properties. None of them has come to fruition. Now you got to ask yourself why, okay? Some of them fell out because they didn't have the economic wherewithal. Some of them fell out because their proposals to the city's economic development committee were inappropriate. Some of them didn't even get that far because city staff told them that their proposals were not consistent with our general plan and they weren't consistent with the ordinances that pertain to this city. So the redevelopment zone exists, and there have been 2 different developers who asked for and received exclusive negotiation status for those sites as it pertains to dealing with the city. It didn't preclude anyone else from coming in with a proposal for those properties as well. It did not preclude that. Regardless of that fact, the exclusive negotiating agreements have long expired. Anyone at this point in time can come forth to the city with a proposal for those properties. Okay? Anyone. And we will listen to any proposal that pertains to those properties because that's our job. We can't say we don't necessarily like the brand name on your store or the cut of your cloth or the color of your skin or any of those other things. We can't say that. We have to listen with both ears to any serious proposal that comes through the door. And that's what we've done in this case. Have we negotiated an agreement behind closed doors? No, we have not. There is no agreement. And that's why you don't see any construction to this day. If and when a proposal is put forth, it will go before public hearings. And that doesn't matter if it's a 60,000-foot store or a larger enterprise, okay? We have a public hearing process that works. Now, one of the reasons we're having this discussion at all is what Mrs. Murphy pointed to. And I respect Mrs. Murphy. She gave a lot for what she believed was her cause. We disagree politically. I respect her as a person. And one of the reasons we're having this discussion was, at the time, the conversation that went to the city, and I was not on council at the time, but the conversation that went to the city was, you don't need a utility tax in this town. You need retail. And they pointed to Costco. And as Mr. Crisafulli likes to point out, that a Price Club did not locate in this city, which I believe he supported. There was another person who was a candidate for council who supported a Walmart up next to Denny's, We as a council said, no, that's not the appropriate place. And we took heat for it. We took a lot of heat for it. You're sending retail tax dollars away was the word. Okay? So here's the bottom line. We don't have the utility tax. The voters said no. Okay, fine. We live with that. That's the law. Then now what's being said, you don't need substantial income from retail. Well, it comes down to some choices that do need to be made. Next year, our budget is projected to pretty well flatline. And we're charged, as we sit up here, with making sure that you have the things that are essential to quality of life in this city. And a lot of folks addressed that issue tonight. What goes into that? Law enforcement's number one on everybody's list. You want good sheriff's protection. We don't want to cut that back. You want your streets paved, you want your parks nice, you want quality programs for youth and seniors. All of those things have a price tag. Most of the surrounding cities and our peer cities have a utility tax, and it backfills that need. Some other cities have both the retail and the utility tax, like Calabasas. They have 3 car dealers, and yes, they have the commons. We don't have either. We do have as our number one source of income retail sales tax.
Mr. Reinhardt, if I could interrupt just for a second, if you could hold your thought, he need to break the tape.
Okay.
Okay? Sorry about that.
Can't
So
stretch the tape.
we will be taking at least a 5-minute break
right.
while the tape gets set. Thank you.